map, the amount of trios that are going to be looking back from the high ground, from the hill, of everybody rotating in. It's just free pickings from the mountain that's going to be raining down bullets, as now Lushi, Moni, Loki are going to have to kind of find a safe entrance while connecting these shots. Is one of the most difficult positions to be in, and as he missed his Oni mask, I don't know what they're going to do.
Look, at the very least, he didn't miss out on this elimination opportunity, right, Takada? So make do with what you've got. And that's definitely going to be the motto for Monet. That Siphon coming into play very heavily here. But as you already pointed out, all these teams that are already fixated on this Big Ben mountain range, it's going to be so hard for a team to work their way up, especially with a limited mount count as is. Loki, only 3 bandages as well. It is not looking good, Takada.
Yeah, and you know, we've mentioned this earlier, but now all these trios that decided to, you know, take the option and put themselves or position themselves accordingly to take shots of the trios rotating in are now kind of missing out a bit on that rotation quickly towards the next zone. It is going to be a zone that's fully inside of the storm already, so if you're able to kind of be the first trios to get there, it could benefit you later on, but they are going to miss out on that damage from all the trios that rotated in. We'll see how they're able to kind of clean up this rotate. They have to go up a hill, go around a hill. You don't want to land in another trio's box with the Oni mask, so doing everything together with a lot of synergy is crucial.
It seemed as though Maxi, Mystic, and Fraxi might have had one of the more ideal positions on top of this mountain range, but again, that could change at a moment's notice. Sky, though, obliterated while looking for some pressure. It's clear that this team wants to make a layer swap. They were hoping to see if they can maybe find a knock or even just apply enough damage that they get a free rotate out of it. Instead, it's going to cost them a good amount of their splashes to make sure that Sky's back to being up and healthy. So much surge, though, Takada. It does mean that they can wait a moment or two longer than everybody else, but high likelihood that they're just going to look for a TP to hide option.
Yeah, we'll see. They're one of the 7 duos that did get a victory royale in the set lobbies this season, so hopefully they can do it again. But for Mystic, he's already lost one of his teammates and his other on just a sliver of HP. He can slip in the ice, and it can cause him to get eliminated. Both now 12 HP on the board, doing what they can, as now Mystic is going to get knocked, brought into the box of his opponents. And it looks like Cringe, Mappy, and Cade might be looking at a potential change in layers here. Are they going to be looking up?
They're going to have to go for the chop first against Vanjki and Battercry, who aren't trying to make this easy by any means, just continuing to wrap their way. Good amount of investment, though. Practically all of the brick. That is going to be all of Cringe's brick at this point, so the hard mats expended does mean that Cringe, Mappy, and K, they feel confident that they're going to be able to make this transition for a high take.
I like that tarp, though. They went into the storm, ticked a bit of extra damage, but it's okay. They can re-heal it up later. They position themselves in the front now. Nobody can cut them off. As the Oni masks are coming through, a little bit of desperation as a potential Hills fight might even break out here. I don't know if you want to keep going up here, but looks like they might have been able to claim it. Nobody contesting. Battercry and his trio here.
It's a duo at this point, though.
Yeah, it is.
Someone is bound to look up soon enough here, especially with some of the teams that we see down below. Marius struggling, though, getting a bit smothered here. Battercry trying to defend this high ground position alongside Vanjki, just taking separate positions temporarily, spraying down onto secondary height. If you're going to try and hold it as a duo, you might as well front. Act like you are a trio in the process, doing a decent job of maintaining towards that front side of zone as well.
Doing a great job of applying pressure to those trios that are second height, and they know now when they build out ahead, their next move is to look back, take shots, but after being cracked, it just opens up another option for them to play more aggressive. Height is going to be given up, as now Cranky and his trio are going to continue to build up. But the triple Oni mask, it looks like another trio wants it as well, as Eyedrop, Sky, and Scroll are continuing to fight this low ground.
All Sky, Scroll, and Eyedrop are waiting for is a pause in the action, and then they can up. They're already tarping through this secondary height layer toward the front side of zone. So it really feels like it's inevitable for them to try and look for that hide siege themselves. Cade, Cringe, Mappy, though, they're not out of the conversation just yet. Robin going to be isolated as a member, and now that's just going to be a free refresh there for Cade. A little bit of Siphon material as well, but Cringe, Mappy, Cade actually forced to keep trying to tarping through this low ground instead, but they don't have many mats remaining.
That's the main issue. They can't go ahead of zone here. iDrop has too many materials, but now as they start to run low, they're forced to look for a refresh, and that's exactly what they are going to secure. iDrop Sky Scroll doing a great job of staying ahead, looking back in the big part they've already made to find those refreshes, continue trying to drop down an opponent, maybe even whoop out a triple spray, anything they can here to continue getting elimination after elimination on the low ground.
They have so much control currently on this low ground. They're going to be able to cut off Mappy as well, but up above, Ewick trying to see if they can maybe find the advantage. They're going to fall, though, from that elevated position. Now a solo stuck on height, but Sky, iDrop Scroll, they might just be content to keep breaking through the low ground instead.
Ewick broke his ankles, left his team now to clutch it out as a solo up above as Cringe is running low on materials. 0 builds left, they're looking up, that's the option. Do they know it was a solo that's dropped down? Elimination from Cringe, now Cade is gonna go down. Cringe is playing as a solo, just 2 trios up. It looks like it's a 1 versus 3, and iDrop Sky and Scroll are gonna be the trio to close it out.
Look, they might not have looked to take height, but at the end of the day, Takada, a Victor Royale is a Victor Royale. iDrop's more than happy to take their seat on that finals battle bus, and they did it in such a commanding manner as well, taking full control of the low ground, just not allowing anybody to break through their barriers.
I did get scared at a moment because in that last or second to last zone, they did get cut off on low ground, but it pulled back towards where they were.
Jakby co, to ja wam jedną rzecz pokażę, czekajcie. Patrz. Większe trochę. Patrzcie, wbiłem czempiona 3, czekajcie. Jakiego czempiona, kurwa, co ja mówię? Diamenta. Diamenta 3 i 20%. Więc no. Ja cały czas gramy, jakby co. To jest taki live, tylko że odcinkowy. I nie ma komentarzy. Mam nadzieję, że będzie to miało dużo lajków i subów. Znaczy suby to nie mogą być, ale dobra. I komentarze może też troszeczkę.
Already building, so they were able to once again stay ahead and just clean up all the players dropping down that ran out of materials, all the players that were low on shields, literally just cleaning up these scraps to close out and get that victory royale, qualifying them to the major finals. But look, we've had so much going on, there was so many angles, so I want the desk to break this down. Tell me what you guys saw.
Thank you so much. I think I've seen things you wouldn't believe, and yet you have to because you can watch them back on the VOD. And congratulations to Sky Scroll and iDrop, and also to Miniminer, because they were top on your list of teams you thought would be taking a victory royale today.
Yeah, real bold prediction right there. I'm sure a lot of people would have not had them on their top 5 list. Now, I could have asked my neighbour's dog to predict, and they would have got that, I'm sure, as well. But a really well-played game, really nicely played low ground. We broke it down at the beginning of the day, Levin, how they can play that low ground well. And I think the way that they played that, it just makes me think, yeah, you know what, these guys are a low ground team. The way that they were getting those frags, getting those eliminations, staying ahead and making sure there was no height changes like we saw in that game number 1. They played it to perfection.
It was the banker. It was the one that couldn't fail. It was the one that's never failed. I mean, you look at how they played it, like you said, it was, you know, not pitch perfect, to be fair, you know, if I'm being critical. I think there's some minor things they could have done better, as they would know themselves, but it was enough to get the job done.
Ja już skończyłem jakby coś grać, nie chcę mi się już grać, naprawdę. Dobra, oglądajcie to.
And I think it's great awareness from them in terms of just like, not necessarily like just playing for height in this lobby, where like they know it's going to be quite chaotic, and actually just, you know, choosing to play low and doing it quite well. I think obviously Takao was right to mention how like the sort of last pull sort of maybe favoured them a bit, right? Maybe things would have gotten a bit messier had they continued to pull up the hill with that team sort of taking it from them. But they played most of the same game as well as they could have, really, and you know, they'll be happy to get out of this lobby now.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I was looking at them off spawn yet again, looking at them early game, and you could see sort of the zone being a little bit more favourable for them, and that's where they're sort of staying a lot more together when they're looking for Surge. You saw them just outside of Seaport, outside of that city, and trying to look for those Surge tags, trying to like chop a team down on top of that Surge base, just really staying together for that Surge, and we could see them having a much more fruitful endgame because of it, and they just set themselves up so well, and they executed as we know they well can do.
Yeah, I mean, you can see there 15 eliminations from the 2 games. 10 of those, at least, came from that last game. And now they're at the lobby because they've already qualified for the major finals. And we're going to be talking about the trios that are still in the running, still going to be boarding the battle bus around next few games after this break.
Jest w ogóle Seti, bo ja nie oglądałem. W ogóle jest Seti. Albo Kami chociaż.
Welcome back to FNCS, and we are so excited to have this show on the road because we've now sent 2 of our three trios, our 3 players in each trio. I'm getting all messed up with my 3s today, boys. There's 3 of us here on the analyst desk, but we've only sent 2 so far. 2 trios through to the grand finals of Major number 1 coming to you later this month. And to be honest, Levin, we were definitely predicting the second game winners to be booking their spot early. Sky Scroll and iDrop, they did take that victory royale, and they took it with 3 still up and running.
Yeah, I mean, again, when you look at just the form of all the teams in this lobby, they're the team most informed. They're the team that have shown, you know, the highest propensity to be able to win games. And so it wasn't really a surprise in my eyes, right? I think the biggest surprise for me thus far, Minnie, I'm looking at Cringe, Kade, and Mappy and just how well they played. Obviously, in game 1, they were on height and it didn't quite go well for them. This game, right, they had to do the job of mid and low ground and they looked really good. And honestly, they were a final moving zone away from actually winning the game. It was a bit weird when we were watching them in this endgame mini. They were sort of playing like refresh to refresh. Like you look at the mats there on Kade, like they've got like nothing, but they still just didn't lose panic, didn't lose hope of that game. And you see here, it was on this zone pool right here. It starts pulling backwards away from them. Had it kept pulling towards them, they honestly might have a chance of winning that game against iDrop.
Yeah, 100%. I think they were doing what they didn't do in the very first game. They were playing those mid to low ground layers. They were getting those refreshes, and they looked up at height at a really good time, but it was just unfortunate that one of them went down there as Mappy earlier on, so they couldn't quite keep all three together up on height. And as you say, I think if that zone had played a little bit differently with those refreshes that they'd had, with the way that we know that they can play, they definitely could have walked home with a win. But really nice, consistent stuff from these guys, which is kind of what I was expecting from this trio. Of course, coming out of Mars Meadows, having a really good drop spot there, uncontested. You'd expect them to do well, but yeah, it's nice to see them there in the top three.
I mean, there's a couple other teams that I'm looking at, right, and I'm thinking, interesting consistency-wise, obviously, right? You look at UX trio, a bit of an unfortunate end for them, right? Because they're the team that ends up taking height, and they looked like in a decent spot to maybe hold it out, but then, like, you're also looking at them, and they didn't really have much, and then UX, and unfortunately went down in a bit of an unfortunate way there. But speaking of height, right, I look at Vanjiki, Pixovsky, and Battlecry in this game, Mini, and they were, again, another example of sort of what we saw in game one from Cringe Mappy and Cade, where you have a team that takes height, and then, you know, they just haven't got enough in the tank to actually hold it out throughout the rest of the game, right? These guys, in this circumstance, were actually sort of, the odds were against them, if anything, right? Because they've only got a duo, right? Pixovsky not there. But they take height, and you're thinking, okay, you know, they got a bit of a hold here, but all those mats they invested to take height, you know, the rest of the mats are running thin, so as soon as any trio starts looking up at them, they're not in the best of spots.
Yeah, they're not. And because they don't have a trio, they can't have one player front side looking back at them, making sure that nobody can TP up. So, of course, there was a duo, or a trio, I should say, on the front side of the zone that just easily looked up and sprayed them out. And it was those lack of materials that they, of course, had that they couldn't quite hold onto it. So, not really ideal from those guys. But it just shows that height is not free. It's not there for the taking necessarily for every single team that's in the lobby right now. So, it can be kind of toppled over for some of the teams that are looking from the front side if you're not in a good situation. So, I'm excited to see what these trios can do for the rest of the games.
Absolutely.
So, any bold predictions now that we are nearly halfway through the days, boys, in terms of these new names that we're seeing? Are there any, I wouldn't say pretenders to the throne, but any potentials for the throne that you think could break through this weekend? Minnie?
I mean, I was looking at Ewig right there, prime for success, up on the high ground. Duo looking pretty good. I think they had decent materials as well. I think everything was looking pretty strong for that team. They took high ground at a good time, but unfortunately went down to full damage. It was an absolute nightmare situation for them, but hopefully that's going to propel them through because they have a decent little drop spot, good off-spawn strategy. So that trio I'm going to keep my eyes on for maybe winning a game here.
Levin?
It's so hard. It's so chaotic in the early game. Like, I've been trying to keep track of just like all the teams moving around us. There's so many different teams and players like move into different spots. Obviously, when you win a game, you leave the lobby, so your spot becomes available. So there's now new teams trying to take that spot. That creates a weird power dynamic. I'm just looking out for what's happening in the early game here.
It'll be interesting to see if anyone moves into those vacated drop spots by our winning trio so far. If Frix's trio drops to Demon's Dojo yet again, we had them going for brutal boxcars, but it seems like they've made themselves a new home and they're very happy to stick with it. So we'll see if they do for game number 3 as we head back to our casters, Takata and the best Taco.
Thanks so much, Desk. And I mean, Levin called it out already, Takata, but there are just so many teams kind of just shifting every which way around the map.
Ja wam to przedłużę trochę, bo to gadanie jest nudne.
I'm down to see it happen, Taco. I'm on your boat here, but we'll take a look now at, you know, what ends up happening in this early game, because this is where it all starts, leading up to those end games, those victory royales, as we look at Hasten, Trulex, and Chicho. Not too surprised that they haven't gotten the VR yet. It's just about consistency, is what we've kind of been saying for this trio. They are currently in, well, depending on if you're including the trios that have already won or not, 10th or 8th place. Let's say 8th place on the leaderboard, not including the ones that have already gotten a victory royale. So not in that top 5 safely yet, but not too far either.
Yeah, but for some of these teams, they know they've got quite the uphill battle to try and tackle.
Ej, czy to jest prawda, że o 22:20 nie, do 22 chyba 45 jest jeszcze kolejne FNCS-y. No bo ja chyba mi się tak nudzi. Nie oglądam tego, robię sobie coś tam, gram na konsoli, ja już przestałem. Nie wiem, co ja mam robić naprawdę.
Are teams that are also just hanging around the outskirts of the map, trying to find different strategies that work out in their favor as far as their surge management is concerned. Twinkle Terrorist, though, continues to be a relatively hot spot here. Enix, Nazik, Sans might have a battle underway. With that Chili Chug Splash having been popped, that leads me to believe that they're certainly looking for a fight.
Yeah, looking for angles as well, but over at Night Shift now. We talked about this previously. Panda's trio is not contested anymore in Night Shift, but they do have trios surrounding them that want to get damage, that want to get those tags. But seeing the Panda already has an elimination, I believe they are in a 3 versus 2, and Atris now is getting soloed out.
Yeah, but for Atris, unfortunately, he's just going to get hit from 2 separate angles. Doesn't stand a chance here. But this is all net positives currently for Panda and Fergus to still find the last one of the bunch here. Skvi taken down. An early 3 eliminations as well for Panda's trio. Takada just means that they're going to have ample time inside of Night Shift Forest to really loot out to their heart's content. And not only that, but they can even shift their rotation strategy because they have so much surge already established.
Yeah, it's a good kind of safety net, knowing you just get those early game eliminations. You've done so much damage, finishing off the knocks, the tags, the full eliminations. You can kind of safely just continue with your loot pad, be efficient, and kind of plan out your next stages of the match without as much stress. Taking a look at a replay of how some of these eliminations did happen. Kind of quick cleanups.
Enix really wasting no time to just throw himself inside those boxes. Mappy Cringecade, though, they've managed to find the roaming Shogun, hoping for a beneficial mythic drop out of this as well. Instead, no, excuse me, that's going to be for the Typhoon Blades over by Mass Meadows. But Cringe Mappy Cade, knowing that they have the confirmation of movement, I think, it is a huge part of the reason why they've been able to look for those consistent high takes.
Right, and those are crucial if you're looking for the Victory Royale and not to qualify through, consistency. And we'll see that, leading up to the final matches based on where these trios are placed on the leaderboard. If they only have a few points, they're going to be looking for that Victory Royale. If they're right on the cutoff for top 5 and qualifying through consistency, they don't need the Victory Royale. They just have need a decent placement in the last 2 matches. So we'll kind of have to see how those decisions are going to be made.
Teams just continuing to try and lurk upon each other, though. They hear shots in the distance. They see if they can find an optimal position to get the better end of the exchange. Voidoni TPs as well, just flying every which way. But Trexer, Raven, Hygel, they've got their prey currently spotted. And this is far east territory that we're looking at right now, Takada.
Yeah, this is edge of the map, quite literally, as we see the final remaining Spanish trio here in the lobby, who I believe are currently not doing so hot in terms of consistency. Actually, 2 more Spanish trios, but both of them are 27th and 31st place, so they might potentially be looking for more of a Victory Royale, although with 3 matches left, there's still a chance of kind of making a comeback on the leaderboard. One good end game is what you need in this match.
Could be a little bit dangerous here right now, though, for Robin. Does have Ijo and Trexer kind of backing him up, but playing from inside of the bush, just trying to find those tags. I was more so looking at the team directly underneath that hill. Just curious if they were going to look for an opportunity to see if they could maybe try and tackle an elimination or 2 themselves, but able to hold that spot pretty easily.
So when I'm looking here at Brutal Boxcars now, this drop, like we mentioned, is good because it does have this mountain by it that gives you so much vision. And generally, we've seen trios kind of base up in different sections of this mountain to see multiple different rotates, but that's when they have Oni masks. It's a lot safer to kind of disengage. And I believe all they had were at least 1 kinetic blade, which I would argue is probably the worst mobility item comparing to the Typhoon blade and the Oni mask. So we'll see how that plays out for them if they do end up getting pushed. But for Pixie, it's all about fishing season here and taking time to kind of get even those spare shield fishes that they could use for looking for tags.
It looks like Pixie might have even been the team that opted to move into that Rolling Blossoms farm territory, given that it just opened up at the start of this lobby with the success from iDrop Sky and Scrolls last match. Find that victory royale. Shattered Span, though. Loki, Lushi, and Monet still just waiting for their opportunities to establish Surge as well. And a lot of this just seems like there's been a slight lull here, Takada. It seems like a lot of that early excitement from our first two lobbies, teams starting to find a little bit more of their flow and rhythm.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, the day goes on, you kind of get to see a bit more of how these trios are rotating and have been rotating in the previous two matches, and what has kind of not worked, or maybe what has worked to get damage, or, you know, kind of adapting as the day goes on. And that's exactly what the top competitive Fortnite players are all about. As we take a look at one of the EU Titans, Titan trios, as they are actually going to disengage from this. They don't want to take any risks, as they are kind of playing a bit more for consistency.
Henry 30J, though, seems like he just really wanted to take this mountain away from Trulix, Chicho, and Tayson. Does come at a bit of a cost, though. Maldiz finds his shields decently chunked into. Other teams now beginning to fixate their eyes upon this elevated position. Henry's trying to currently crank up on. Still should be a decent Surge base, though. But now they need to ensure that they are finding tags, Takada, because it's so much mats that they just used.
Yeah. As we take a look now at Hyper, Kira, his fan, also known as Hedra. We're looking for an engagement inside of zone here. Always a little risky, but seeing it's only second zone, you can afford, it's only 1 damage per second, 2 storms, so not too much to worry about. Have the Oni masks in hand. The issue is when you're getting pressure applied from multiple angles, kind of got to be careful. You can wait for a moment to strike, as you know that most of the time when pressure is being applied from multiple angles, you can maybe find an opportunity to just jump on one of the solos very quickly, box them up, but those are all very risky plays. It depends if you want to take it, as the Oni masks are going to be used now to kind of rotate back into zone.
These teams are spending a good chunk of time, though, just trying to find some form of damage against the other. There's just no real command and control currently over this Flooded Frog's position. And now, Prax, Mystic, Maxi, since they don't all have those Void Oni masks to easily teleport themselves in front, they're the ones that are currently being slightly held here. And now another team from a completely different angle is just gonna find prime opportunity. Prax doesn't have any white heals either.
Yeah, this is kind of looking down below. I assume there's something there.
Some fishing, potentially.
Yeah, something they can do, as all of them are getting incredibly low on HP. Moni here has his full trio potentially sneaking up, still with the Kinetic Blade in hand. Maybe get a 3-2-1 triple spray, maybe just find a nice little bump shot, but after the shot is connected, disengage is going to come through. The issue with this Kinetic Blade is you kind of stay still for a little bit while you're charging it up, and it's an opening for these top tier players to just completely delete you out of the sky. So it is a bit scary, but so far it's worked out.
Lushi also had that top of the hill angle as well to provide some support cover fire for just in case things didn't work out, like what we just witnessed. 2T also falling back where to go. Some heals were left over. And Lushi, Monet, they seem like they might have a chance here. Makeit's definitely looking a pretty tough position. Very low on shields. Not sure how the recovery is going to work out for him. And he's not the only one that seems to be struggling a little bit here in the early game.
Yeah, you want to kind of conserve the chug splashes and other heals that might be a little more difficult. Fury Cry is doing exactly that as we look.
Wiecie co? To już tak długie jest, że jest tak długie, A to jeszcze ma trwać naprawdę do 20. To jeszcze 2 godziny. Prawie 2 godziny. Mniej trochę. Ja wolę z długo. Dobra, macie.
Into the zone once again. It is going to be Hijo up against one of the Spanish trios. Can they close this one out?
Hijo can't seem to catch a break here at Demon's Dojo. Even when they're successful in taking out Night Rose, they're still having to just deal with all these other players trying to steal away their loot benefits. Void Onimask gonna be able to create a little bit of distance, a little bit of space, and more importantly, get them into the next edge of zone, because now it's up to Stali, Fricks, and Risk to actually make their move inwards. And with only a Typhoon Blade, that's gonna be much easier for Robin, Hijo, and Trexer to even eliminate them on that rotate in.
Yeah, especially if they look back. Not a great position, but we'll see what they're able to do with it. As you can see, full Oni masks ready to go. Fourth zone has appeared, so we will have Rift Island coming. All the spare Shieldfish now going to be picked up from the box they created earlier to fish, and it's actually looking pretty good for Andy, Shark, and Ju. I kind of like how they're preparing themselves. Only thing I would like is maybe a better pump shotgun to the gray, but you know, it's fine. You can't ask for everything in these set lobbies.
Got plenty of fish, at least, to split evenly amongst their trio, so that is definitely a nice way to take advantage of some of the resources available on the map, especially when you're not under pressure. And just have to hope that they've been able to maintain the surge damage threshold as well, but teams now taking notice of Shogun's Arena having just spawned in.
Kind of long-range shots being taken. We haven't seen any big brawls on Shogun's Arena so far. It's kind of just been one trio that's walked up and taken the medallion, but Axe Force is going to get knocked down. Raban for 9 doing what they can to not lose the rest of the loot here. Crouching, avoiding those footsteps, kind of planning. Do we Oni Mask out of here? Do we try and catch one of the players off guard, as it looks like the Oni Mask into the zone is going to be the play to force a disengagement?
It might not be a disengage, but they might have been unintentionally bailed out by another team moving into this Magic Moss position, drawn towards the sound of fire. Mystic, Brax, Maxi, they were hoping for a cleanup. Instead, now they find themselves having to watch their own backs. They know that there's another trio lurking. They don't want to give up more than what they have to as far as their resource expense is concerned.
Very quick to reboot Axe Force back into the match here. And I believe they even kind of secured Axe Force's loot, or at least a bit of it at least. They kind of boxed up his eliminated character and was able to kind of give him a bit here with the barrels. They should be able to get back in the game, so I'm actually not too worried about this trio so far.
Really thought we were going to see a little bit more there from Kira, but given that we only saw Kira on screen, I have to wonder if he might be by his lonesome, not actually intact with the rest of his trio. Might have been hoping for that reboot van that we just saw Fnatic use.
Yeah, we'll have to see, as Kelda and Serena having a bit of a tough situation as well. It seems like Rithketh, this Spanish trio, just keeps trying to fight everybody they possibly can. I wonder if they're kind of going for that, victory royale, so they want to have enough loot, enough mats and damage to be able to secure that. It's just kind of risky to continuously take these engagements over and over again. As Seren's been cracked, Kelda's been cracked as well.
Everyone kind of just using what they've got, but Typhoon Blade, the Xing Xing is breaking through these boxes, and Kielva, Goba, they're going to find themselves on the receiving end of it. It's only Seren. Things, but Riske, Fricks, Stali, they're just going to chase him down. They know that it is only one member remaining But a pull back, actually, reconsideration from Stali. Going to be instead content to take what they've already secured. Don't want to find themselves in a compromised position. It looks like Takada just too much traffic in the area. Might have felt like they were going to find themselves getting eliminated if they were a little bit too greedy there.
How much have they even secured, though, is my question. I mean, still only 15 above the threshold, still not fully capped on mass, not even halfway there. So they've got a ways to go, but at least all 3 players are still remaining, so always opens up that opportunity for more. As Ewick now had an unfortunate slip from the high ground, kind of twisted his ankle up.
We don't talk about those.
Went down to fall damage, but you know what? It's all about making it happen here in the next game. As hopefully we'll see them in late game once again.
I think the toughest part is when it happens in 4K, right? Like, because imagine you're having, like, a lot of players, they'll go back, right? And they'll like, what went wrong for this match, you know, that kind of thing.
I don't want to be in that long review session personally.
Probably, yeah, no. You know they're going to mess with them a little bit about that. But, hey, still phenomenal things that could take place here in this third match. Not for Dabiul, though. He's going to find himself eliminated by Fredage's trio. A big come-up currently, though. They needed those mats to carry them through this mid-game into the late.
That's not good for Fred. Radion, on the other hand, are going to be getting that quick refresh as we have Darky right behind them. They don't know how tagged they are, I think, but 1,200 above the Storm Surge threshold and a great position on this 6th zone, being kind of the first so-called 50-50 of the match, these partial zones, and another 2 eliminations going to be picked up. This is huge for this trio. They can now look to play on the uncongested side if they want to kind of pre-fire, get closer to the Storm here, pre-fire some Oni masks in zone, but there is 2 more partial zones that are going to happen before moving. So good news is they have so many options, so many choices. It's all about just making the right ones.
Frix, similar situation on the other side. Moment to revisit. Finally did manage to get that final elimination onto Serin, but Monet, Loki, Lushi, a little bit stuck here early on the side of the hill. It's a decent spot, relatively center to the zone, but they don't want to have to deal with actually breaking through towards the higher points of this hill. They do have options right now, though, Takada. If they want to go low, if they want to try a little bit closer to height, but what they need more than anything right now is Surge.
Yeah, that's the problem. That Surge kind of eliminates a lot of those options because they're forced to put themselves in a place where they see a lot of the trios rotating in zone. Good news is they're already so centered that they have vision on the trios rotating in. They have a secure position that's going to help them in the upcoming zone. So as long as they don't get lobby focused here, as long as they don't take a lot of damage, don't get cracked, and just continue to apply that pressure and hit their shots. I mean, mainly they have to connect their shots here. I don't think any connections have been made yet.
Fredage's trio, though, when we last checked in with them, that was as close to a Loot Llama giveaway as you're gonna get. Monet, though, just getting ticked away. And fortunately for Monet, it was actually a knock from players afar. Otherwise, that would have just been clean elimination had it been to the actual Surge damage itself. Still a rough position to be in, though, as Loki, Lushi continue looking out. It's Ewick's trio that they're trying to find tags into. Now Chicho, as he rotates through the low ground, but nothing is connecting.
They just can't connect these shots, Taco. It's exactly what they need, and they're forced now to use Chug Splashes, their last remaining heals, in desperation to just hit any shot possible. Are they going to be forced to make an Oni mask play? Are they going to be forced to play that risky kind of fight? I don't know how much more time they're going to be able to just take these ticks.
They've at least got mats, but they are using a good chunk of their hard materials just to maintain this spot, and they've definitely got to get a move on. They're going to desperately make a play for the low ground, hope that there's another trio, a team that's even worse off than they are currently. Lushi jumps straight into Pixoxy's box, finds the elimination they need, just now hanging 56 above, but the work isn't finished. They still have so much more to go.
It's a marathon for this trio, and they're just at the starting line here, able to get that quick elimination, but still need to replenish their shield, replenish their HP, make it into zone, and do even more damage. So many boxes to be checked. It's definitely possible, but it's not going to be easy for Mystic, Brax, and Maxi, though. They are looking a bit more healthy, more comfortable, as we see where this 8th zone is going to be pulling. It is going to be northeast, so honestly pretty close to where this trio is, as they can kind of look for options on rotating. You just have to be careful to not Oni mask where other trios are Oni masking and then kind of get stuck in their box. So you want to find an angle, even if it takes, you know, tanking Storm a little bit, having to use a splash or a water sprite to recuperate it. As long as your trio's safe and together, getting to that zone is crucial here.
Brax has to be very tactical, though, with these last 6 charges on that Void Oni mask. If anything, they're probably even hoping that they're going to be able to find some eliminations, and hopefully those elims lead to those refresh charges of the Void Oni instead. Cringe now mapping himself forward. Cade mapping closely behind. Still, this isn't the kind of setup that you would expect or want for trying to take a height take here.
Yeah, Vanya's gonna go down right below them. This could be an opening for them to play a bit aggressive, though, but they don't know that Ziandi is right on their door, knocking, incredibly healthy. 170 above the Storm Surge threshold as they continue to rotate together. The trio right now with the highest elevation is gonna be Kai's, Kramsu, but Tayson, Chicho, and Trulex now 330 above. Just looking for any openings on potential eliminations, and they might have found just that as they get a knock, they get another elimination. 2 more on the board. This is huge.
Clean map refresh as well. It was just so quick the way they were able to capitalize on those 2 elims. Kremsu, Kaze, and Clone, though, they're trying to maintain this strong high ground spot. They threw the TPs forward just in case. Always want to have those safety measures, but they're also ready to just get ahead of the rest of the crowd. Up on the hill, though, Nosif, Naze, and Nate, they've actually managed to break their way through the mid game. A little bit of struggles here for France, but their hopes very much still going. Case doesn't have that Void Oni any longer. The charge ran out, and he's been chopped.
Let that happen.
The fall damage is so tragic.
Absolutely devastating for this trio. Kai's getting eliminated. Clone Kramsu forced to drop down from the best position in the match to now playing it out as a duo. Only 225 above as they're forced to regroup and continue from the mid-ground.
And that's how easy it can be for things, the rug, to get swept from underneath you completely. Cringe, Mappy, Kate, though, trekking through this low ground. Got a decent amount of space tarped out, but what they're trying to find currently is Prax wiggling his way through this low ground as well, but it's not going to be enough. A full trio bearing down on you. That's going to be a little bit more Cypher materials here for Mappy, Kate, and Cringe to work with, but they need more, and they might just find it up against the likes of Hydro, Robin.
Doing a great job spraying back now. It's always risky when you go for that cleanup, even when you go from the knocked player to bring back the loot, and that decision is going to cause Mappy to go down, leaving his trio to play it out as a duo. They're not even ahead of zone here, so they're in enemy territory on this rotate, forced to jump around the edge of zone. This is risky. You could fall into an opponent's box. You could get boxed up yourself. It looks like Cringe has already been cracked, but the healthy trio up on the top in the clouds are just going to rain down from above. Win condition in their favor.
We saw the script earlier on in 5th and 6th zone here for Predage when they found that bountiful amount of eliminations back to back to back to back. You couldn't ask for a better setup, and now completely elevated here on height, spraying all these layers underneath them, not really leaving any opportunities for a trio to try and TP their way up.
Great job from Tayson, Trulex, and Chicho, though, catching a player off guard, trying to position themselves ahead of zone here. You can't use the Oni mask in this layer. It's all about playing together. Too many builds in the surroundings as they continue to break on through and look to find the other trio that's looking to claim low here. It might be a battle for it unless they want to take that decision to change layers.
Chicho, interested, moving on up, trying to stay directly behind Tayson. Tayson claiming so much space currently, but the shift comes at a cost. Trulex finds himself getting picked off here. Teams just lurking in the wings of that low ground. going to be able to find that elimination.
An amazing layer change, but it cost them a player as Siandi and Shark now with so little mats are forced to kind of play on the edge of zone here, look to drop down a player, have the option, unable to successfully execute it though, as Tayson is continuing as a duo, but he's running low on mats.
From rags to riches though, when we're talking about comparisons currently, Pradaj still so seemingly healthy, up on the heights. Tayson and Chicho doing what they can to get by. They know what's taking place above. They can see just how much territory has actually been claimed up in the skies. But first, they've got to worry about this trio directly underneath them. They might find themselves sandwiched here. Shark, Z, Andy fighting for their lives. But it's going to be Chicho, Tayson doing what they can to survive. Instead, it's Tayson, though, finally exchanged.
Gets one, gets the finish, is going to keep him up in zone. Chicho now doing what he can, but he is going to get knocked down. Pred now left alone up top to let his two fraggers drop down, clean up the fight. Will they be able to do so, though? 3 water sprites, 6 splashes, everything to heal this one off, but they might even just be able to finish this off quicker if they can frag out.
Look, we know Shark is crazy, but anybody left in a trios lobby as a solo, it's never gonna bode well. Radion, Rogue, a little bit of a tango here. Only one more stands between. The Italians finding success, and Pradaj succeeds. Victor out from above just left his teammates to handle all the dirty work down below Takada, and it couldn't have worked out better for him.
Played by the books, cleaned it up perfectly, had more than enough loot to tank the storm there, was able to clean up the rest of that match, secure the victory royale. I mean, there's not much more to say about that, Taco. It was clean, it was executed well, and they did everything they needed to qualify themselves to the major finals.
If there's anybody I want to go back and see a replay of, though, it's got to be Pradaj. I'm sure he's going absolutely ballistic right now, knowing that his trio is confirmed and secured for the grand finals here in Major 1, but you really couldn't have said any better there. This team did everything they needed to. It was a clinical performance here in Lobby 3.
It's what you'd love to see, dropping down to frag out, get those extra eliminations. I think they might have even got close to double digits there in the last moments. You can see how many they have, securing that elimination and victory alongside it. Just the bonus points, because they already booked their spot to the major finals. I love to see it, but I also love to see the other 3 amazing faces on the desk, Frankie, Levin.
Thank you very much, guys. It's really nice to see another duo qualifying straight into the major finals. And to be honest, for Pradaj & Co, it looked really smooth. It was like no one was challenging them there. They played everything almost by the book for the perfect endgame, Levin.
Absolutely. I mean, we saw, a big dub for the Spanish community in Game 1. This is a big dub for the Italians. The Italians, shout out to my guy Mikey. I know he's viewing party, he's always watching these guys. And shout out to Pradaj, Rax, and Radion, because they're one of the few teams in EU Mini that actually does stream a lot of the tournaments they play, right? And they've been a team that we've been able to consistently watch and follow through this season. They've played so many finals together. They have so much experience together, and that showed in spades here. They were a team that I would have expected maybe to get in on consistency, right? They've been playing well today so far, but again, if you're one of those consistent teams, you're making it into end games every single game. Eventually, you get that win condition, you get a chance to win the game, and they took theirs here in Game 3.
Yeah, big congrats to Rax in particular. It's actually his first ever grand finals, and he was leading the damage for the first 2 games, so he definitely deserves it. So big congrats to him in particular. And I love the way that they played this game, actually. They sprayed down Kaze. We actually saw that from his POV. It looked like Kaze and his trio, Kamsu and company, they were all up on high ground, and they looked like they were secure. They looked like everything was going their way. They were in that moving zone up on high in metal, and then unfortunately Kaze didn't place down a pre-TP that he could go back to when he got chopped out. Had absolutely no chance, and that just opened the door there for Pradaj and his trio to take high and take the win. So really well played game, as you mentioned. I think a lot of people would have had them in their consistency. They were definitely in my top 5 list for consistency, so nice to see a team winning on high yet again.
Nice to see more of Mini Miner's predictions coming true. That's why he's hired. We are going to go to a short break now, because that's why I'm hired. So please do not go anywhere. We'll be right back with more analysis from game number 3.
I made it way too
to FNCS Europe. Yeah, we got America coming later today, but we still got a couple more games coming your way before then. I might be slightly in a slow motion now. I'm strobing, I'm at the disco because I'm very excited for us to be back for yet another year of competitive FNCS. However, we've just said goodbye to another trio. We said see you later because they've already soared into the grand finals of Major number 1. That was Predage's trio, Predage, Rax and Rayon, doing it for Italy. And you know what? They're through, but there's a few more duos who keep consistently getting to the endgame level that I'm fully expecting to see in those major finals as well. We have to give it to the likes of Tayson, Trulux and Chicho because it feels like there's quite a bit of adversity coming their way, but they're still making it to the endgames and they're still looking like they're challenging for that victory royale every single time.
Yeah, absolutely. They're going to be competitive. I think, I said at the start of the day, when they're making it to every endgame, eventually, right, things will click. You get a win condition and a chance. And to be honest, Minnie, everybody else, like, beneath them in the leaderboards will be hoping they win a game, right? Because if, one of those consistency team, gets a win, right, it sort of moves that threshold down for you a little bit and gives you a more fighting chance to get in on consistency.
Yeah, definitely. And also frees up a drop spot as well. So I'm sure we'll talk about that soon enough as well. But for these guys, a little bit unfortunate they're losing Trulex. It looks so good for them making it into this end game. Of course, a very, very home zone for them. You can see Foxy Floodgate sort of in the background of these zones. And it was a situation where I thought, right, I think this is the time. I think this is the time when they're going to pick up their victory royale. But of course, they had to scramble. They've run out of material. Tayson going down whilst Chicho was trying to solo clutch yet again. Just a little bit split in these certain circumstances. But you just know that they're going to keep making these end games. And as you mentioned, they like to get a win or they qualify through consistency anyway. So no trouble for this trio so far, no concerns from me, and that's why they're in 5th spot and 2nd on the consistency leaderboard.
Now, when you look at the standings, just remember that 1, 2 and 3, they're all trios who've won themselves a spot in the grand final. So really, we want to be looking at number 4 right now, because that's where Cringe, Cade and Mappy are sitting. And Mini Minor, they're sitting pretty in a way. This has been a fantastic performance from them. It's something that you definitely expected. As I said, that's why you're hired.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly what I expected. I expected them to be consistent. I expected them to make these end games. I expected them to have good loot coming out of Master Meadows and just making it consistently to these end games, playing these low ground layers, which they're doing really well so far, Levin. Haven't really seen too much of a concern about this trio so far. We saw them trying to go for height a little bit in the first game. I think this is now where they're thinking, right, let's just play out our mats, let's play our low ground, let's play what we can do, because, of course, now that iDrop, Sky and Scroll are not in the lobby, they have a little bit of an easier time on that low ground layer.
Well, they've been playing well, but I actually disagree. They're in that last game, right, in the 10th zone, you saw them go for a bunch of different refreshes, and it didn't quite click, and that's sort of what ends up, leading to Mappy going down, right, because he's in the back of the top, he's trying to look for mats. The main problem there was that they were looking for these sprays, and again, just not using the biggest, advantage we have this season with their pump shotguns. Every time you're looking for a spray in an endgame, use your shot, just pump a wall. It's got, 80-meter distance on terms of, the structure damage, and then it's got incredibly strong structure damage. Pump a wall together, coordinate it, then go for the spray. You're going to get a lot more limbs that way. They weren't doing that, and then at least they're not getting their limbs they need to stay in the game, and it could have been a better game for them, but either way, they're still doing incredibly well today.
I'm enjoying Coach Levin. I'm liking hearing this fire from you. As you're saying, that they found themselves in a situation and Mappy made a mistake and couldn't get them out of it. And I'd be curious to know if they are able to fix those issues. Do you think that we will continue to see them kind of challenging in these end games and hopefully taking a victory royale?
There's nothing to suggest they won't, right? They've got such a strong game plan, so I think they'll keep making these end games. But whether they get the win or not, I think is up to them. They've come so close in so many of these games already.
Well, we've got 2 more victory royales to crown before the end of today's show here in Europe. So let's head back to the best Taco and Takata.
Thank you so much, Frankie. Taco, look, it's getting close now. We're going to the last couple matches of Group 1. The cutoff currently for qualifying through consistency is 105 points. So if you're close to that, you're going to want to play a little safer for these end games. But if you're at the bottom half of that leaderboard, it's all about the VR.
Yeah, but that's the problem, though, Takata, is that you would think teams, they want to play safe, but when you don't have more than just this lobby and the next to try and find your seat on that finals battle bus, you kind of got to go for those crazy plays. So let's see what happens here in Game 4.
It's all or nothing. for these trios. They do have that last chance qualifier if they don't make it through today, but Taco, it's just 3 trios that qualify through last chance, so it's incredibly difficult. You want to qualify now, and to do that, it's top 5 or it's get a victory royale in one of these last 2 matches. And like you said, it's way easier said than done. You can try and play it safe, but then you need Storm Surge tags. You're forced to play a bit more aggressive if you don't get enough safe Storm Surge tags. If you get contested, you don't have the space. But Atris is going to start off strong, knocking down Robin.
This is a very familiar Teeny strategy right now, Takada. Atris v Teeny completely bamboozling Robin on the outskirts here of Demon's Dojo, just taking full advantage of the way that this trio likes to actually split this POI on the drop. But this far north of Demon's Dojo, when they know that they have the man advantage, right? But Atris v Teeny, they still might not be as familiar as Haijo and Traxxer, for example, with what remains inside of Demon's Dojo. So they can clear out that trio, though. That could be a very promising start, at least for Teeny.
Yeah, this is why doing your homework is important in Fortnite competitive, making sure you know what your opponents tend to do, what their strategy is, where they end up dropping most of the time, and even where they end up rotating, so you can kind of catch them off guard if you're able to outplay them in that sense. But Nazen now in a difficult position as he lost both of his teammates.
Yeah, this is almost tough to witness right now. Not a ooh la la moment by any means, but Nate and Nusif, they still have a chance with Nazen running around. Maybe there is reboot opportunity. Hear the sound already popping off in the distance, though, for somebody. Oh, it's actually going to be Luck, but still, the fact that there's been this much calamity in the starting points, Takada, teams just constantly clashing, it feels like, that just goes to show that everyone is doing everything in their power to try and confirm either a victory royale or just moving their way up for the consistency.
Yeah, I mean, Warriors Watch was where Redditch, Radion, and Rex were dropping, so that opened up a spot, and it caused, a team to contest each other, so there's always kind of that risk if you do try switching up your drop spot to somewhere where a trio has qualified from, but it can pay off as well, as we look at another replay from Atris, picking up one more player.
Traxxer was probably just hoping for a little bit of elevation to get an idea of where Svi, Atris were actually at, but does lead to that team's demise. Marine and Dirty working on double revive, though. Expedited speed, Diffy back into action and immediately taking down an opponent. Steep cost to pay there for Sans, who was hoping to have the advantage initially.
Second for Ziffy, third now for the trio, as they've secured a full triple elimination. We've mentioned this before. It's a great position to put yourself into in this early game, getting that early damage, being able to focus on looting the rest of your drop spot and rotating to where you want to look for even more of those tags that you don't need as desperately anymore, as Haijo now seems to be on the run.
Haijo is a wanted man currently. It started at Demon's Dojo, and it has just continued. This Void Oni masked game of tag that Haijo is playing up against Moulage Trio, and it's looking very dire right now for Haijo. Even make it, given chase with both the Typhoon Blade and the Void Oni. They want this final elimination so badly, just because they have recognized the fact that it's a solo. And for Haijo, even if he does somehow survive this exchange, this has clearly compromised his capability to get an early reboot off.
Yeah, target on his head. We'll see if he's able to lose the stars shortly. But Raban for 9 and Axe Force now are putting themselves into the action, and it's working as they find one knock, looking to make it 2 on Mystic, but quickly enough, he is gonna disengage. Oni Mask is gonna be used to try and finish this knockdown, get that extra damage and loot secured, as the rest of his trio is kind of on the hunt now, I believe, of pushing the players away.
They might chase Mystic into the water at this point even. Doing what he can just to trying to hang on to a glimpse of hope here in Game 4, Takada, but There is only moments separating Mystic from becoming another elimination here for X-Force's trio. He does find himself on the outskirts of the water, but X-Force not going to allow for that next TP to go through. The chase has come to a conclusion, but those are really great eliminations for F9's trio that have collected some really great early damage as well.
That was good. I actually want to see this replay. I believe Mystic was like a second away, a millisecond away from...
To jest trochę nudne, naprawdę. Większość ludzi by się już znudziła. Więc ja wam naprawdę to przesuwam, bo już tak nudne jest.
Make this happen, but they are just so scattered. In front of him from that teleportation. Now Hydro getting lit up from a different angle entirely. Trixer and Hydro, they've only got tatters left essentially. This last medkit now from Hydro. But losing Robin yet again after having...
Ta runda tylko i kończymy, to jest naprawdę za dużo.
Gone through all the problems involved with getting that reboot in the first place, and now they have to go right back into it.
Yeah, you can see the Oni mask being used. Hydro looking to see what his options are. Any angle possible here, but with Robin having gone down, they're going to try and be able to bring him back into the game, even if it means tanking a bit of Storm. It's okay. This early on, they are going to be able to get that reboot. Could have definitely been worse. They've gotten a bit of damage, as now it looks like this might be the first battle
Dobra, jak chcecie, macie całe.
that we might see on, I was going to say Shogun Arena, but now that I think about it, they were just shooting at the boss, so no other trios contesting them so far. Should be a quick cleanup.
Vanjiki, Pixovsky, Battercry, they're going to be the ones currently claiming that Shogun X Medallion, but at the same time, Takada, I think part of the problem involved is that when teams are trying to make their approach to Shogun's Arena, knowing that there's already a trio up there, it just becomes so chaotic, and you never know if you might get stuck even inside of one of those rifts, for example. We've seen players floating around unintended, and they just get picked off along the way, but it's just very difficult to actually try and contest a team up top successfully when they've got so much view coverage as well for teams that might be trying to make the approach.
It really is, but you know, you can still make use of the wind to kind of rotate around after these trios have left. As we'll take a look at a replay here inside the zone by a reboot van. Looks like Relic was just doing his own thing. Unfortunately, though, spent a little too long on the vending machine, leading to his demise, as it might have just made another trio come through.
The amount of teams that are currently playing from inside of the Storm, though, Takada, things are so haphazard when there are this many teams having to fall back into the Storm, looking to play for the reboot vans. And I believe that Moolah was even one of the teams that might have been caught up more recently with Hydro, Robin, and Trexer, trying to prevent them from having a solid rotate in, but now they find themselves in a very similar position. Another team's just trying to take advantage of fishing before moving in.
Yeah, trying to secure those shield fish. They've already got the water sprite. I'm looking, you know, I want to see some more plays in these late games of trios kind of tanking a bit of Storm with the water sprite, especially if they're kind of like second height or even third height, and using that to kind of take height from the Storm, trying to surprise the team on high ground. Haven't seen that happen yet. We've seen Queasy do it in some of the previous events.
Jakby co, po tej rundzie pewnie naprawdę już kończą, więc no, ta runda i już koniec.
We've had leading up to this, but I want to see it happen more when the Victory Royale means so much in these events. For Vanya, Pixie, and Marius, though, they're still here looking to try and confirm that Victory Royale. I'm surprised they haven't done it yet. I mentioned it earlier, but if you didn't hear, Vanya has a 20% win rate in these reboot-style matches. He was the only player who qualified in 2024 to all 3 EU Major Grand Finals by winning one of those semi-finals games, by getting that Victory Royale, and his trio has yet to have secured it here in Group 1, so hopefully they can try and make something happen here.
This is looking like a very strong setup currently, though, for the end game. As far as Shield and Mats are concerned, Venya, Pixie, Marius, kind of just hoping that they're going to be able to, not necessarily find eliminations, but they just want to maintain that surge damage threshold more than anything else right now.
Yeah, looking again at Atris Tiniskavi, I mean, they're in 20th place right now. They're not that close. Been accustomed to getting these VRs, but they're just kind of on the middle half of the leaderboard. Haven't been able to do it yet, but look at this, Taco. 4 eliminations already. Over 500 damage in terms of Storm Surge. They just pulled zone here in the 6th zone. You know, there's just these little things that are happening that are giving me faith that this might be the match for Atris, Tini, and Scooby.
Yeah, Tini's trio is definitely keying a bit as well, but the way that they've been playing this lobby so far, it certainly highlights the fact that those first 3 matches have not gone the way that they would have hoped for, and their playstyle even leading me to just think that all they want is the Victor Royale. But if they have a lot of eliminations, that might be enough to surge them upwards on that leaderboard, maybe put them closer to that position to play for placement as far as qualing is concerned. Cushy though, Uik not going to stand a chance here. He'll be the first knock that we've seen. Daviel now having a chance to potentially get double revive here, but the pressure continues to commence here as another team breaks down these walls.
Dobra. Ja wam szybko pokazuję, jakie miejsce zajęła Polska. Tutaj oczywiście 12 miejsce, no i brawa na tego typa. I ten Oxyl, coś tam. Nie znam go naprawdę. No jest. Jeszcze możecie sobie popatrzeć. To jest koniec rundy. Za 20 minut to jest koniec rundy.
Still, success with that double revive, at least for Daviel.
This is scary though. The Buell and his trio went down at, I believe, the same time in the previous match here, right before getting into endgame. We don't want this to happen again. We don't want the same mistakes to be made. So luckily enough, this time around, they are all up once again with the triple spray, have more than enough damage. They just need to make it to zone.
Pain currently though for Uik, but fortune seems to be on his side for a moment here at least. His teammates believe should have some success with that double revive. Pivoting focus back towards Cade, Cringe, and Mappy though. We've seen some really strong moments coming out of them today. They're in a really strong position as far as the leaderboard is concerned, but what these teams want more than anything, Takata, is that Victor Royale.
100%, especially if you're on the lower half, right? I mean, it's all or nothing in these last couple matches, last 2 matches of Group 1, unless you're one of those teams that are kind of on the borderline or even, you know, in the top 5 already. It's not even for the Victory Royale, it's just making it to the late game and doing what you can to secure as many points as possible. Obviously, the cherry on top would be finishing it off with the Victory Royale, even if you're already in that top 5. But it's easier said than done as Tayson, Trulex, and Chicho rotate right down the middle, beelining it to zone, and it works out basically flawlessly.
Could be a slight hiccup in their game plan, though. They're just coming up on Lucy's trio, and that could make for a very difficult circumstance as far as their rotation is concerned. Cringe, Cade, and Mappy, though, just duking it out currently. Seren gonna be a victim towards that team. Always nice getting those elimination points, getting a little bit more siphon materials as well.
800 above the Storm Surge threshold for Vanya, Pixie, and Marius. This is 7th zone, so Storm is ticking way harder. Storm Surge is going to be incredibly impactful, seeing that there's 53 players up. It's going to have to drop down to 40 if they don't want to take damage from it, but that's for the players that haven't done enough. Vanya, Pixie, and Marius have to capitalize on those trios now and try and catch them off guard. Maybe pick up some extra eliminations.
Battlecry's trio, though, up above, still hanging out on Shogun's Arena. Probably enjoying the view currently. All these trios kind of scattered about, and some of these teams definitely struggling a little bit more so with their position. When he spots a big opportunity, though, on the TP in, Mula gonna find himself eliminated on the other end that hollow twister there from Monet, but Loki and Lushi, they needed the mats more than anything, and they also needed some damage, just barely going above the threshold currently. Puts them out of the danger zone, but not entirely removed from the hot seat just yet.
Yeah, I mean, the good news is solid weapons, solid heals. So if they need to take those fights, you know, they have that advantage to their name, but will they be able to capitalize on that as Cringe, Mappy, and Cade now continue to rotate closer and closer to this 8th zone? Whole zone basically in the storm, so once again, are you going to choose to kind of rotate further on in and not have as many options for tags, or are you going to play more on the congested side where all these players are rotating into to have that opening to take those shots, but, you know, putting yourself in much more of a risky position?
It's crazy to think, though, that we're witnessing a game where Teeny, Atris, and Skibby are just sitting below that surge threshold with how aggressive they've been throughout these lobbies so far. They're looking to shut down Lushi's team's dreams, though, currently. They've already gotten Loki in the mix. Monet fighting for his life currently. And Teeny, not going to waste any time, knows just how much they needed this. Water Sprite as well. So many goodies just received from finding those couple of elims.
Oh, those were everything for this trio, but the issue is going for that has now caused them to be the prime target for all these trios that are looking back in zone, trying to find players rotating in late. I believe already one of the trio has gone down. I don't know if anybody has successfully made it into zone, but for Tayson, Trulex, and Chicho, they're sitting comfortably in the mid layers here.
Yeah, this is devastating as well for Lushi's trio, because heading into this match, they were sitting around 7th on that leaderboard. Factor out our top 3 teams, of course, that had their Victory Royales, but so you're looking at a team that's like 4th out of 5th, technically, for that top 5 as far as consistency is concerned, and going down this early is just so detrimental to their overall game plan. It's going to come down to the wire for Game 5 for a lot of these teams as far as that top 5 on the leaderboard is concerned.
It really is that much more pressure for the last match, but before that, we need to close this one out. We do have Shogun X Arena still inside of the zone here, just giving the ultimate high ground for Battery Cry and his trio up here, raining down from above, as now Atris and his trio are going to make moves to a solid layer, but Tayson, Trulex, and Chicho want a bit of it if they're able to get ahead here.
Tayson doing an excellent job to kind of pilot his way through some of these secondary hype moments as Chicho sticking right behind him. They don't have the Void Oni mask, so they're going to opt to commit to the low ground currently instead. But Cringe, Mappy, Cade knocking on the back door here currently. Venya as well with Pixie and Medius. They've also got some intentions playing about 1 layer above Ultimate Low. And Tayson just trying to remain as concealed as possible, but they still want full control of this front side below ground.
You can see how quickly they're making that decision to walk on ahead to try and claim the low ground, but from that 9th zone, there's so many trios that still have a lot of mass, still have a lot of loot to fight this low ground. It's not the battle yet, but now Tayson, Trulex, Chicho are going to try and fight to claim this low ground. It's going to be against Vanya as the pre-edits are coming through. The shots are connecting as they've already taken down one, but an angle is connected onto Tayson. A quick back shot is going to be what he took, though, to keep on going forwards.
Huge work there, though, from Teeny. The fact that he's still standing with hardly any resources to his name, just sheer willpower and fighting potential. Up on the high ground, though, Mappy, Cringe, Cade, they're going to begin their onslaught of the rest of the lobby. This hill pool just so promising as far as the high ground team is concerned, but for everybody else, they're left to scatter amongst the low ground. Tayson going to take a couple more ticks than intended, but when you only have the Typhoon Blade to work with, what other options do you really have?
They have the Water Sprite here. They can choose to tank a bit of Storm potentially, but they all have to play together. The synergy is here. Can they continue on forwards? Loot is going to get picked up. It's going to be Teeny that drops in the box. Both Tayson and Teeny are going to go down. Chicho, Trulex now have to close this out as a duo, while Cringe, Mappy, and Cade are controlling the height.
This is looking so good right now for Mappy, Cade, and Cringe. You can feel the excitement building for our team on the high ground. All the while, though, Chicho, Trulex just trying to keep the dream alive, and they're not the only ones. Ju as well, fighting it out inside of this congested low ground tiers. Chicho even going to take a moment to fall back, moment to go inside, and find Hyper in the mix of all these builds.
Another one for Chicho as Trulex and Chicho continuing to power on through this hill, going up and up and up, taking out player after player, but Trulex goes down. Chicho left alone now as there's still 8 players up, 4 trios, 1 shot needing to be connected by Chicho here on the low to pick up another, but the height battle has concluded. Cringe taking out all 3 players. All they need to do is close it out.
They can taste the victory royale. It's so close. They can smell it out. Mappy, K, Cringe. They're going to fall back even. They want to confirm this. Chicho, Tayson doing what they can, but it's not going to be enough as Mappy, Cade, and Cringe finally secure their victory royale on the day. Takada, they've been hunting it in every single one of these lobbies, so it's almost inevitable that they secure it in the 4th.
Not only are they currently in first place on the consistency leaderboard by 50 points, but they said that's not even enough. We're securing a victory royale on top of that and claiming their golden ticket to the grand finals. But not only that, what a performance from Chicho as well. One of the other most consistent trios making it to this end game, but the ones that took home that golden ticket is gonna be Cringe, Cade, and Mappy.
Respect the attempt, though, from Tahi's team to try and overtake the high ground with those TPs in the last moment, but it's just not going to be enough. Instead, let's hear from what the desk has to say about the breakdown of Lobby 4.
Thank you very much, guys. What an epic finale to game number 4, and an epic fail by Miniminer, who said, these guys, they're so consistent, but they're not going to win a victory royale. What did you make of that game, Miniminer?
I mean, I was wrong, I guess. They've been very consistent today, which is exactly what we expected from this trio. We talked about it so often. I mentioned it before that game right there. They actually went for height in that first game, remember? They built up all the way up on that hill. They tried their best to hold it, but they couldn't. This game, a much different approach, Levin. They played on the low ground layers. They actually sprayed out Pixovsky and his trio really, really well. And I really liked that high take we were both saying back there, how good that was. And they just able to ride it out from there on out because of those zones.
And the key to the high take, there's the timing, right? You look to the zone was pulling up the hill. If Pixovsky had held it going up that hill, no one else would have been able to take it. It would have just been, they can play the game from there. But the timing of it, just before it starts pulling up, they chop them out, they take it for themselves. And then obviously again, in the later zones, when someone else tries to take it, they're ready, they fight. They've been hitting so many shots today, and the player quality has just been top notch from them. Then it's up to just dropping down, finishing out the game, closing things out. It's been a great display from these guys. Honestly, a bit sad. I wanted to get another game of these guys, right? They've been providing the entertainment all day long, but they were bound to get a win with how they've been playing eventually.
Yeah, we were saying literally in the post-game of game number 3 that this is a trio. They've been making some mistakes, but they can make those micro adjustments to come back stronger and cleaner, and that's exactly what they did. And we will hopefully be coming back stronger and maybe a little bit cleaner after this short break. welcome back to FNCS. We just have one more game of Group 1 this major, but it's definitely going to be a banger because the lobby has been left wide open. We've already sent 4 trios all the way to the grand finals later this month, and now there's one more guaranteed ticket that our teams could take if they get the Victory Royale. However, let's talk about what went down in game number 4, because a few people went down when they got chopped from height, but we've got to talk about the low ground first, because Tayson, Trulux and Chicho, they've just been roaming around, and sometimes I felt a little bit sorry for them, Levin. It feels like they're getting stuck in a bind, even though they're making it to the end games.
I mean, yeah, look, I talked about the sort of zone pool that determined what happened on height and what led to the game win, but that zone pool almost got these guys out of the lobby completely, right? Mini, they were the last team to sort of get up up the hill. In fact, they didn't actually get up it, and zone sort of pulls, and it pulls in the perfect sort of way to just allow them to stay in the game and sort of run around the hill. If zone had just kept pulling up the hill, there's a good chance they just go down straight away. Like, they had no mats, they had nothing, but the zone pool was favourable. They're able to get a refresh, stay in it a bit longer, and then Chicho and Trulux both with very impressive sort of solo clutches.
Yeah, a little throwback to duos right there. I thought we were back in 2024. Chicho and Trulux clutching up in endgame. A little bit solo, as you mentioned, so they were having to sort of solo clutch individually. Didn't quite work out there in the end. Chicho was kind of holding his own at the end. I thought maybe there's a possible chance that he could do it with his Siphon, but no, of course wasn't to be. But yeah, I noticed the same thing. When that zone, I think it was the 11th or 12th zone that ended up pulling. I think it was the 12th, pulled actually so favourably for them that they didn't have to go over that hill and expend the materials that they didn't have. So really nicely played from those guys. I think they're a shoe-in now to qualify for the grand finals in that top 5 consistency, which is nice, but of course there's still one more game to go, so I want to see these guys continue to make that end game, not fall off here at the end, just continue what they're doing.
Right, I'm going to do a little bit of standings admin. Look at number 1, 2, 3 and 4. Ignore them. Number 5 is our top spot for the teams that haven't got a Victory Royale yet. So as we've just mentioned, Tayson, Chicho and Trulux, they're playing a blind, even if they are getting unlucky at times. But look at number 6, aka number 2, because Vanchiki, Pixkovsky and Batacry, they're names that I'm not really that familiar with personally, but actually in the last few games, they've really come to the fore. They are taking some risks, they're challenging for height, and they are looking like they will be in that major final, Levin.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think some people might recognize Pixovsky as like
Dobra, a podobało wam się FNCS-u?
on that pool.
To było mi tak średnio. Ale jeszcze są, to gramy.
It's really tough, right?
Znaczy, nie gramy, tylko oni grają.
You have to sort of criticize them there, maybe say you got to be a bit more aware, right? You have to be spraying tees more, applying a bit more pressure so you don't have that, especially on such a critical pool. But even then, Pixovsky able to use that Invis coin medallion just to be able to, sneak out some extra points out of that game.
Yeah, I think if this team were sort of a little bit low.
Już nie ma. Więc jeśli odcinek chyba jakiś długi, chłopie. Taki odcinek długi. Nie wiem, czy wam się podobał, ale na pewno. Ten, kto jest wytrzymały, na pewno go obejrzał.